This is a recorded lecture for the IB DP Design Technology, topic 4.4, Manufacturing Processes. Design for manufacture is when designers design specifically for optimum use of existing manufacturing capabilities. So what does this mean? The big ideas are that manufacturing processes have been developed to innovate existing and create new products. Designers engineer products to make them easy to manufacture. This is called design for manufacturing. Design for manufacturing exists in all engineering disciplines, but differs greatly depending on the manufacturing technologies used, requirements of the product, and the clients. These practices focus not only on the design of the product's components, but also on quality control and quality assurance. Advances in rapid prototyping, such as CAD, CAM, have brought industrial production methods into homes. 3D printing is an example of this. And you need to know the methods of manufacturing for the IA and for the DP tests. Manufacturing kind of has two divisions. It's divided into additive techniques and subtractive techniques. We've already talked about additive techniques in topic 3.5, rapid prototyping, but it's manufacturing techniques that add material in order to create it. So that would be things like 3D printing, laminated object manufacturing, stereolithography, anything like that. So you might need to refer to topic 3.5 to have a reminder of the different types of additive manufacturing. This section deals a lot with the other type of manufacturing, which is wasting or subtractive manufacturing. I'll just call it subtractive manufacturing because that's normally what we call it. So manufacturing techniques that cut away materials in order to create a component are subtractive manufacturing. So this is things like CNC routing or milling. So you can watch these two videos right here and they're going to show you those different types of manufacturing techniques. So this is milling and this is CNC routing. But we also need to think about other types of wasting manufacturing. So for instance, cutting. So this is when material is reduced to a desired shape through cutting away material. And you can do this in a number of different ways. So we're going to go through quite a few of them on the next few slides. So for instance, you can use a saw. This is a bandsaw. These are hand saws right here. And you can cut away materials by sawing them. You can use scissors. So for instance, you can use power scissors like in this video right here, or you can just use, for instance, scissors like this. So this would be used for something like textiles. You can use some different power tools or hand tools. So for instance, we have a thicknesser or a planer, router. This is called a Surform. This is a spoke shave, this is a plane, this is a plasma cutter, and this is oxyacetylene torching. And these will all cut away material. We, of course, can use CNC. So CNC, by the way, stands for Computer Numeric Control, and it's essentially three-dimensional points in space. So XYZ coordinates that the different machines follow in order to either waste away or subtract material, or if they're additive manufacturing, to build up material. And of course, laser cutters, plasma cutters, and water jets are all types of CNC. And the kinds of design context you'd see for cutting away material would be things like wall clocks or artwork or puzzles, toys, clothing. It can be infinite number of products, flat pack furniture. The types of materials you use when you're cutting would be something like wood, plastic, metals, ceramic, stone, textiles. And again, it could be almost anything. There's some advantages to using CNC routing. The equipment in CNC have high accuracy. Equipment in CNC produce a high quality finish. They produce very fine details. There's minimal distortion, but they have quite a high setup cost. So they can be quite expensive and it requires some special training and skills. Another type of wasting or subtractive manufacturing is machining. This is the removal of material by a tool that moves across the material by use of a machine or large equipment. And this could be things like a drill press or a mill machine. It could be lathes or a shaper. And these are all different types of mills that you might use. They can be highly accurate. The equipment in CNC produce high quality finish. They produce very fine details. You can use CNC and CAM, and that would allow for 24/7 production. The equipment in CNC have a lot of costs, so that's always a problem. And it requires special training and skills, but less workers might be required. Another form of subtractive manufacturing is abrading. So this is wearing away materials with abrasive material. So for instance, sandpaper or abrasive paper or scrapers. So, for instance, this palm sander would be a way of abrading material. You might use a grinder like this handheld grinder right here, or you might use a disc, belt, or spindle sander like this one right here, which is a belt sander. We have shaping techniques. So this is a manufacturing method for modifying the shape of a material. One of the main ways that we do this is molding. When we're molding, material is heated until it's a liquid or in a pliable state. The materials are then placed into a mold. The materials used include plastics or polymers, but it could also be glass and metal. One of the first types that we should know is injection molding. So this is where products or parts are produced by injecting plastic into a mold. You should definitely watch this video right here. It'll show you how that works. It can be considered a clean technology as there's very little waste because whatever's left can go back into the molding process and be remelted and put back into the molds. Materials that are used are typically thermoplastics, and the design context include most plastic products that you interact with on a daily basis are probably injection molded, with the exception of things like water bottles. So if you have a plastic water bottle, it's probably not injection molded. It's probably the next type of molding, which is blow molding. So in this process is the inflating of a hot, hollow thermoplastic inside a closed mold. So a blast of hot air is sent in, which expands the plastic so it conforms with the mold cavity. It can be considered a clean technology as there's very little waste. So again, whatever's left over goes back into the process. The materials that are used are things like thermoplastics and glass, but it could be other things also. And in design context, these are things like plastic and glass bottles and other hollow containers. You might use rotational molding. So this is where a heated hollow mold is rotated during the heating up of plastic and then the cooling. And what it does is it basically causes the plastic to stick to the outside of the mold. It creates a large cavity inside. You use thermoplastics, and this is used for large plastic items. For instance, this is a water tank that would go on, say, the top of a house or in a farm or something like that. But you could also use it as buoys. Those are things that float in the ocean, or pontoons for pontoon boats, or really large toys like plastic slides that you might see for kids. Compression molding, a material is heated so it's pliable. It is then placed in an open mold that closes and compresses the material to the shape of the mold cavity. It can be considered a clean technology as there's very little waste. The materials used are thermoset plastics or ceramics and some thermoplastics. Design contexts include composite materials, so for instance, sinks and tubs and things like that are made in this way. Thermal forming is where a plastic sheet is heated until it's pliable, it's placed in a mold to form a shape, and then vacuumed to that part. The materials used are thermoplastics, and the design contexts include disposable cups, egg cartons, trays, refrigerator linings. We actually have a vacuum former in our lab. So the advantages of molding is fast production. You have the material and color flexibility. There's very low waste and there's a lot of design flexibility, but the machines and things are very high initial capital costs. So it costs a lot to set these things up, particularly the molds. Those are very expensive. And the parts and sizes may have some design restrictions. The next shaping technique we want to think about is casting. So molten materials, it's usually metals, but it could also be something like chocolate is poured into a mold. Often the mold is then broken. The molded product is called a casting. Materials used can be metals, but also food, because we just talked about chocolate, ceramics, clay, resins. The design context includes sculptures, parts for cars, such as engines or marine propellers. This is a couple of videos to show you how casting works. This is casting of cast iron, and this is bronze casting. Please watch those videos. The advantages and disadvantages of casting: you can make complex shapes. It's cost effective. It's flexible in size. Really big castings can be made. Finishing is required, and it's quite labor intensive, especially for sand casting. So if you watch this video, you can see sand casting. Another shaping technique is knitting and weaving, and you click on this to see the slides on knitting and weaving in the textiles. Pultrusion is a continuous manufacturing process used to create composite materials that have a constant cross-section. So reinforcing fibers are saturated in a liquid polymer resin and then pulled through a heated die to form a part. And this is a video that shows you that process. Another manufacturing process is extrusion. So this is a manufacturing process where material is forced through a shaped opening called a die to create a product with a consistent cross section. This process can be used with various materials like metals, plastics, ceramics, and food. We're going to talk about joining techniques. So there are methods that we use to join two similar or dissimilar materials together, and they fall into two big categories. We have permanent and temporary. So permanent cannot be easily undone, and temporary can easily be undone. So the first type of permanent joining technique that we're going to talk about is adhering or gluing. So one part receives a layer of adhesive and the second part is placed next to the object with the sides touching. Once the adhesive cures, the products have formed into one object with the adhesives between them holding them together. Fusing. This includes welding or brazing or soldering. This is a manufacturing technique used to join similar materials together by melting them at high temperatures and then usually adding a small amount of similar material. Design contexts include the construction of steel frames, plumbing, or electronic connections. We have fasteners. These include nails and rivets. These are permanent. So the design contexts include combining or producing artifacts, often used with two dissimilar types of materials. Temporary joining techniques can be easily undone. So these are things like fasteners. They connect devices to join two or more dissimilar materials together. They can be undone to separate the materials if needed. So this could be like nuts and bolts, screws, pins, rings, Velcro. Design contexts include flat pack furniture. So you can think of like IKEA. Those can easily be undone and packed back into their flat nature. Thermoplastics, such as hot glue, can also be considered as a joining technique. So you can also undo hot glue by just heating it again and pulling it apart. Also, command strip, there's this kind of post-it note adhesive, and you can use that to, say, hang a picture on the wall, but then without any damage. All right, thank you for watching.